Well, hello, folks. This is David T. at the Country Place once again. Before we begin, I sure would like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Well, folks, I have the honor and the pleasure today to introduce you to a gentleman who I know works this program to the best of his ability. John volunteers most of his time at a treatment and drug and rehabilitation center. Folks, in John's commitment to this program, well, I want you to know you're going to hear a lot of true strength and experience and hope as he shares his deep concern of those who are afflicted by this terrible disease. John Armstrong, tell us hello. You've got the mic now.
Hey, David T. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I'm John Armstrong. I'm an alcoholic, and I say my last name because I just don't feel like I'm fully in unless I do that, right? And so as we speak, I'm a 63-year-old man with a little over 7 years of sobriety. My sobriety date is 9/30/2017. I'm married 29 years, going on 30, and we have one daughter who will be 27 in March, and we got 3 rescue dogs, a rescue cat, and we got a full contingent in our house, and I'm just we did meet probably 4 or 5 years ago now in a particular meeting that you and I attend, and I do a lot of different stuff, and I feel like that.
You're a very, very busy man. Anytime that I go to a meeting, I always see you have a lot of people that look up to you. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, I can. So I have the luxury, I would say, to be able to go into a treatment center 3 times a week to one particular treatment center, and that treatment center is the treatment center that I attended back in September of 2017. And I go in I do 3 different functions on the 3 times I go in. On Tuesday nights, I go in and I speak to the patients, and I speak to them for about an hour. I have a 7 o'clock slot, and I go for about an hour, and we talk about AA, we talk about life, and we primarily, what I try to do is talk to them about the transition from a treatment center back into real life, and how hard that transition is, and just how quick we get hit right in the face with real life. In a treatment center, for the most part, I think you'd say that when they're in there, they love the thought of being sober. They love it. And they also can see themselves being sober for the rest of their lives. And that's fine and dandy, except you got to get out, and then it's not so easy, and it's not so, it's work intensive. And a lot of times I think we underestimate where we're at. We underestimate what we're up against, and we overestimate where we're at. And I'll be honest, the disease part, or the disease aspect, was something I had a hard time with for a while. And because this is America, and if there's something wrong with a person, there's typically a doctor to go to and a doctor to dole out a prescription. And with this disease that we have, this twofold disease, there is no prescription, there's no drug, there's no antidote, there's no cure. There's no cure. And that can be challenging to get across to the patients. Well, if it's a disease, how do I treat it? And if I'm in a rehabilitation center, what do you mean that I'm not going to be rehabilitated? You mean there's not a cure? No, there's not. And as you well know, that treatment, that cure, is working with another alcoholic, and in my case, working with a bunch of them. And so you do see me talking to a lot of them. Coming back to your question, why do I talk to a lot of them? Well, that particular meeting that you and I go to, I recruit to that meeting. Because I know that if I can get, the guys and the gals in that particular meeting, that room is such a strong and powerful room, that room will take over. And my job is pretty much getting them into the door. And then when they get in, I will kind of, you know, pat them this way, pat them that way, introduce them to as many folks as I can, have them sit next to me, try to explain what's going on, because I don't care if you're 75 years old. Going into an AA meeting for the first time is intimidating. And it can be hard to walk across that threshold. And what I will do when I speak to them on Tuesday is I will tell them that I will meet you in the parking lot, I'll hold your hand, and we'll walk in together. And I'll show you how welcoming this crowd will be to you. And so that's why you see me with a lot of folks,
Well, God obviously has given you the heart and the mind and the conviction to do that kind of work. That's a difficult work because of all the time it takes away from family and kids and responsibilities. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of the hard work that you do?
Yeah, I can. Not really understanding what I was getting myself into in some respects. And I've always been a pretty outgoing guy, a people guy. I can pretty much talk to anybody, with the exception when I got, in the last few years of my disease, I really didn't want to talk or be around people. And, we do have these selfish qualities. But when I'm able to, I have such a unique position being able to go into the treatment facility that I can see somebody literally from the day they walk in, and I can see them to 18 months to 2 years. We can talk about it later if we want. I have a couple of different aftercare groups that I facilitate. In one of those groups, I have people coming up on 6 years of sobriety right now. And so being able to see that and to knowing that you can, as you know, we can't get them sober, but I sure believe we can influence them. And I think, be honest with you, I think we can influence them more than people think we can. And I would call myself a disruptor. And I'm not in it to do it the way it's been done. I'm not in it to do it the way that's smooth. I, I, I'm in it to break eggs and because there's lives to save.
We all do this for our own reasons. Can you share with us about some of your stories about working with others?
Well, let me just touch on a few of the things that I've become since I've been in the program and the things that have happened to me strictly from people in the program. I have a couple that I saw through the treatment center that had a child. That child's middle name is Armstrong.
Is that right?
I'm the godfather to that child. A friend of ours, I won't name his name, who's struggling with some cancer right now. I was a best man for him about 3 weeks ago when he got remarried to his wife. I've just done so many things. I've been in weddings of people that I've seen through treatment. It's just amazing to see what we can do. And again, that's why I know that, not you, but folks with your length of sobriety sometimes can be kind of jaded and can kind of be, if they want it, they'll get it. Well, I don't believe that. I think a lot of times they don't want it and we can help them want it. And so I just won't quit. And I won't quit. But I'll tell you where it came from.
Tell us about how you learned how not to quit.
So I'll tell you where I think some of the drive comes from. I mentioned that I facilitate aftercare, and aftercare, that's a treatment center program that is offered to patients as they leave, primarily for a year on their upon their exit. And aftercare is where they go to talk about things that make them want to drink or use during the week. And that week is primarily in their first year of sobriety. And that could be, how do I go to a wedding? How do I go to a funeral? How do I go to work? One we've been hearing a lot lately is, how do I go to lunch at work? And And I really didn't think about that till about 6 months ago when I started hearing it. And what that is how do I go to lunch without drinking? How do I do that? But there was an incident early on. I've been facilitating for 7 years now. Well, about 6.5. Early on, where there was a young girl that I had watched come in. I watched her come in from the very first day. Her drug of choice was meth, and she was about a 21-year-old girl that looked probably 30, the meth look. And she got put in our aftercare class, and I became very fond of her. And we had her for 3 weeks, and she got out of the treatment center, and it was truly like a butterfly had blossomed. So I got to see what happens in 3 weeks when they're removed from their drug of choice, or drug of no choice, as they may say. When I got to see her, and there's just this beautiful young lady, and we were in the aftercare class on Saturday, and she got out that Friday. And during the check-in, she was sitting across from me, and she goes, I talked to CPS. I'm going to get my child back. I feel highly motivated to get this thing. And Monday morning, she was dead. And I went to the man who would be the head facilitator at the time, who I was working under, and I told him I quit. I said, I feel like I'm responsible for that. I'm not good at this. If this wouldn't have happened. And he said, his name is Cam, and he passed last year. And he said, John, we can only do what we can with them when we have them for that hour or that hour and 45, and that's all we can do. Okay? So that's what he told me. And I believe that. But I also believe that we can do things, we can do more for them than just that hour and 45. And so right then, I decided that when I take this group over, we're going to do it different. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow these people 7 days a week, 24/7. We're going to check on them. We're going to dig deeper. We're going to drill down. I'm not going to watch this. If I can help it, I'm not going to watch it. And the sad thing about that young lady is after she had passed, I found out she lived in my neighborhood. I found out she was 2 years ahead of my daughter at the exact same high school. And I just felt that was even more. It was all right around me. And I just felt like could I have prevented that? Absolutely not. I could not have. There's nothing I could have done to prevent that. But going forward, there is a lot that I can do to help try to prevent it not happening again. Now, that doesn't mean we haven't lost people, because we have lost people. And I've lost a lot of people from both my aftercare groups. And it just drives me, because there might be another story we can get to later where I got to see a lot of things happening. But, I've been to these funerals, and I've looked at the parents. I've looked at the wives and the husbands, and I've looked at the children. And that drives me. And I'm sure there's people that do just like I do it, but you're not getting in my way, and you're just not going to stop me, because there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of old guys that don't really care for me, and that's fine. It's 100% fine.
Well, personally, on your end, I support that totally.
Well, there's a lot of funny things. When I speak on Tuesday, it's not uncommon for people to dislike me the first time or two. There was a situation. I was talking to this young lady yesterday, and one of the things I do is that I try to vary my program. I repeat it every fourth week, because that's about the time that a group of patients have turned. So I try to give them 3 bites at an apple, just different bites of things I do. And one of the things I do is I ask for a birthday from a person that's in the crowd, and I asked this person for their birthday, and they wouldn't answer me. And I answered again, and they wouldn't answer. And I said, okay, I guess you just don't want to participate. I moved on to somebody else. Well, I did move on, and this person left the meeting. And so we finished the meeting, and everything was fine. And I went and found that person. And I said, is there something I did wrong? I'm so sorry, because, you know, the last thing I want to do is offend somebody. And she goes, I'm blind. And so I have a text from her here real quick. I can tell you about what she said, because we talked yesterday, and she just got her seeing eye dog. And she says, she goes, sorry, but I just love the story of how we got connected. It was really about how you came to me and apologized. I thought that I want to be like that dude. That's why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do. And Karen she's now in LCDC. She's been in treatment. We did all this stuff, and so we got through that. And there's been others, where I don't know if we can cuss on this, but there was another girl got up and just stormed out, and I always, I don't want to hurt anybody, and so I went and found her afterwards, and you can bleep this out later if you want to. And I go, I'm sorry, is there something I said that, that you'd like to discuss? And she goes, no, it's just that you're a fucking liar. and I was talking about, so if you're in treatment, the people you're in treatment with, you call them your litter mates. And what I was discussing is you're not going to be friends with these people you're in a treatment center with. That you would like for that to be the case, but you're going to get out and you're going to scatter in the wind. Most of you are going to drink again. If we're being honest, about 90% of you are going to drink again. Therefore you're not going to be friends. And that girl is one of my great friends right now. She asked to come into my aftercare class. I was speaking to her yesterday. Her dad's got stage 4 brain cancer, and we were talking about how we're going to navigate this, through sobriety. And and that's another thing that I do, David, that is kind of frowned on. I'll work with anybody. I don't care. I'm working with anybody because I know where I'm at. I know where my heart's at, and I know that if my heart is in the wrong place, I'm gonna get run out of that place. People aren't gonna. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about saving people, and not that I'm saving them. They're saving themselves. But no, there's so many of them, and we joke about them a lot. A lot of the ladies call me Papa John, and the other thing with the ladies, as you well know, I think you saw the story that was told the other night, and there's just so much of that physical trauma in a lot of these ladies' lives that they really they look for a male. They look for a male, a strong male, to help them through some of these things. And I've dealt with just some horrendous things that some of these girls go through. And being a father, hopefully being a grandfather one day, I mean, I do have a huge heart for things like that. And I'm just not going to, I'm not going to hand you off on somebody else because you're of the other sex. If you come to me, so that's another disrupting thing right there that people aren't too. I'm sure that's why some of the guys aren't too fond of me, but that's okay.
I'll tell you, or they're being very envious.
When you were a younger man, tell us something about your genealogy, how you grew up, and a few things that you learned on how to be able to open your heart the way that you do.
I think that one of the things that we learn in this whole thing is that alcohol's never been my problem. That alcohol has been the solution to my problem, and my problem is life. And through this journey, to be able to go back to when I was a young child. And as you well know, in our program, we have a way to go back and do a lot of things. And it's crazy how you can talk about or write down things that might have happened here, and the next thing you know, you're 10 years prior, just by, one memory begets another memory, and a lot of these memories, we don't really want to have these memories. And I was born in Bryan, College Station. When my dad was a student at A&M, I was born in 1961. We came to Houston in about 63. We lived in the Sharpstown part of town, and I didn't really know what class or how we lived or any of that really until a few years ago. And it's kind of an amusing story. My dad, and so this will be mid to late 60s, my dad had won a newspaper contest or Texas football contest, and about predicting the order of how a football season was going to finish. And so he won, I think, in the late 60s, like $500. And they came and interviewed the family, and they took a picture of the family, my family, at our house in Sharpstown. And I really didn't see this picture again. I didn't really know about it for probably 20, 30 years. And then when I did see this picture, something never made sense with the picture. And there's a lady that, I've grown up with, that we call her aunt, who's really just a, friend. And we call her aunt because that's all we've ever known is her as an aunt. And I was talking to her one day about this picture, and I go, Aunt Kay, I'm in my 50s when I'm asking this. And this picture with this family and this big Christmas tree and all these presents around this tree. And I go, I just don't remember this like this. I mean, I don't remember the picture first off, but seeing the picture, I don't remember that kind of Christmas. And Aunt Kay said, you're right. They borrowed our Christmas tree and all those gifts to take that picture, to be in the magazine, because y'all didn't have a tree and y'all didn't have gifts. And it's only with the benefit of hindsight, sometimes you understand where you came from, right? And my parents were both alcoholics. My mom would be considered an addict and alcoholic, but I think that my mom died in August with 25 years of sobriety. My dad died at 49 years old, way too young. And I was 27, and so a lot of my life has been dealing with two drunk parents, and one will get good, or the other. My mom was in a lot of institutions, so a lot of it was just kind of taking care of two brothers and a sister. And so a lot of times there was a lot more, to my household than there were to the other households, and dealing with parents. And in a similar story, we moved out to Cyprus probably early 70s, and we had a house and not far from the group we go to, probably a mile and a half from the group we go to. And I didn't think much of it, or I didn't think one way or the other, but I went and spent the night with somebody. Matter of fact, somebody who has a school named after him now out here. Went and spent the night with his family, and they did things so much different. The parents weren't drunk. They sat down for dinner. Everybody sat down for dinner. There was dinner. And I just realized that I wasn't living the way other people were living. And you know how you can be as a young kid. Man, I kind of want that, versus, I'm not disrespecting my parents, but it's just, when you go over here and all these comforts, and there's this thing called dessert that I had no idea even existed except for Christmas. And, a lot of times you don't know what's going on, but I guess what I'm saying is all along you're picking up all these little memories all through your life, right? And then countered with those memories, you're also doing things maybe you shouldn't do, and you're picking up things you shouldn't pick up. Your behavior is probably the way your behavior shouldn't be, and so you're driving some of these bad memories. So when you come to September 30th of 2017 and you're 55 years old, well, you've got an 18-wheeler full of these things. And so is it the 18-wheeler full of all this data and all, something you well understand? Is it an 18-wheeler full of just a bunch of servers, racks and racks and racks of John Armstrong's mind? Is that the problem, or is it one little glass of brown liquid? I'd submit to you it's that 18-wheeler of servers. It's not this, but the problem is I have those servers in my mind that are constantly hooked up, and like a data center, they never go down. And I found this alcohol that will make them at least stop. But I guess I never really figured out that they were always going to be there the next day. And I was got to cover them up again the next day. And what I found out when you and people like you and the group we go to was huge, just huge. When you got me stopped, and with the help of the treatment center and AA, and you get me stopped, and there's no way I can get stopped. There's zero chance I can stop drinking alcohol. I don't know a way. I don't see a way. I don't know that I want a way. But you get me stopped, and I thought that was it. I thought, we did it. And then I found out that was the easy part. And I found out that the hard part, and if I'm being honest, and if we're being honest, the impossible part is living life without alcohol. Because we're playing a numbers game, and it's a bad numbers game. It's a bad numbers game. And keeping me stopped and living life, it's oil and water. And we got to find a way to keep it separated. And that's what I try to do every single day. And that's why when I found that pot of gold that's at the end of our program, the giving back part, oh, feed me. I mean, feed me. That's why I do what I do. You need hope. And to see the hope you need to come around us. And I think what you will find out, if you do come around us, you'll find out that, and I've said this before, if you just you can stand up on a table and put your back to this room and put your back to this crowd, and if you fall back, we're going to catch you. And we're not going to catch you 8 out of 10 times or 7 out. We're going to catch you 10 out of 10 times. And if you make a mistake, we're going to catch you 10 out of 10 times. And if you make another mistake, we're still going to catch you. And we're not going to stop catching you, because we're not going to quit, because we know what you're going through. And this is a surrender thing. And it's really, really hard to surrender. And if you can just see it in your heart to just take a chance and surrender with us, we can show you a brand new life. And because I got a brand new life, and one that at 63 years old, I feel like I'm the best version of me that I've ever been, and probably the version I was supposed to be all along. So thank you, David, for having me.
Well, thank you so much, John. Folks, how about a nice hand for Mr. John Armstrong? Thank you so much. Well, folks, this is David T. from the Country Place with Mr. John Armstrong, wishing you a happy, happy day. And don't forget to say your prayers. Everybody have a wonderful and God-blessed day. Goodbye for now. Until then.